Hello YouTube, Herman Williams again. Well, I hope everyone is remaining safe and continuing to practice social distance and being diligent about keeping yourself safe and your family safe and protecting the lives of others. Big shout out to our healthcare workers and first responders and everyone who's made masks and made food contributions and done other things to help their communities try to get through this crisis. Now I know some of you are still waiting for your stimulus check, and that's part of what I want to talk about today. I want to spend a few minutes talking about some things that are in the CARES Act, what it should be doing to help families and businesses, and what you can expect going forward. My fear is that unfortunately the longer this virus drags on, the heavier the economic impact is going to be to families and to businesses. So I want to spend a few moments talking about what should be happening with the CARES Act, what kind of relief you should be getting, when you should expect to receive it, what to do if you don't. And please stick around till the end, because I also want to talk about some things you need to know as far as your mortgage and your rent is concerned. So I hope you'll stick around for that. So first of all, let's tackle the family and personal income piece, the economic impact piece to individuals and families. Your stimulus check, in other words. I've heard from some of you that you have received your check, and that's good, but a lot of people still haven't. Part of the reason that you may not have received your stimulus check could be that you did not have a bank account on file. If you did not do a direct deposit when you filed your income tax either last year or this year, if the IRS does not have a bank account on file for you, then you probably won't get a direct deposit check and you'll have to wait for a paper check. But there could still be time for you to go in and change that, and I will leave a link below in the comment section or in the description section that you can go to, and maybe you can update your information and provide an actual bank account and get your check sooner. So far, more than 80 million checks have been sent out via direct deposit to bank accounts, but that still leaves over 171 million approximately payments that still haven't gone out or in the process of going out, which includes both some more direct deposits and a large number of paper checks. Paper checks are slated to go out at a rate of 5 million per week, so it could take up to 20 weeks or 5 months for everyone to finally get that first round of stimulus checks. But again, there could possibly be a way for you to speed up that process if you have either opened a bank account since you last filed your taxes, or you open an account now. Depending on where you are in the queue, there still may be time for you to get a direct deposit check. And again, I will leave a link below where you can check the website to see if having a bank account will speed up your process. It just depends on where you are in the queue. If they've already slated your check to go out by mail and it's already in a batch of checks that are slated to go out, then it may be too late for you to do that. But for some people, you still may have time to change how you want to receive your check and get it via direct deposit. Otherwise, again, you may be waiting for possibly up to 5 months before you receive that first check. If you are going to receive a paper check, please be aware that there will be fraud attempts. Anytime something like this happens and there's the possibility for someone to take advantage of a situation, there's always someone out there that's going to try to do it. The U.S. Treasury Department has taken steps to try to ensure that you have a means of verifying that your check is real. There are certain things you should look for if you receive a paper check to make sure that it's real. That includes a new seal that appears to the right of the Statue of Liberty on the check, and it says Bureau of Fiscal Service. If it does not have that on your check, then it's probably not a real check, and you need to contact the IRS either through their website or through phone call. Scammers will be out there, and one of the methods they may employ is someone may come to you with a paper check, and you have a bank account, and maybe you've already received your check via direct deposit, and they have a paper check, and they say they don't have a bank account to deposit it in or to get their check cashed is the scam that they may use. So they may try to get you to let them deposit this phony check in your bank account in exchange for you giving them cash. Please do not fall for that. Do not accept anyone else's check to be deposited into your bank account. Do not give anyone your bank account information. And like I say, look for the identifying seal on the check to make sure that the check that you receive is authentic, because some people may try to scam you with a phony check and then tell you to do certain things, provide bank account information or other personal information so that they can correct the situation and get you a real check. Please do not fall for any of these scams, but beware that they will be out there. People will be trying to get their money and your money, or possibly just your money. Now, there was a lot of controversy recently about the Paycheck Protection program. Now, this was the program that was designed to help small businesses get access to funds through potentially forgivable loans through banks that were backed by the SBA, that would help them keep people on the payroll until this coronavirus is over. Unfortunately, that program ran out of money almost as soon as it got started. Part of the reason for that was that some larger businesses with already established relationships with big banks took advantage of the situation, and they were able to get loans quicker than small businesses could that didn't already have that big banking relationship, that they could just pick up the phone call and handle the process that way. And so the funds got depleted rather rapidly. As of today, Congress has passed a bill and the President has signed it that will replenish, at least for the time being, the payroll protection program, and there has been increased scrutiny and emphasis placed on getting that money into the hands of small businesses that it was originally intended for. Let me touch on the mortgage piece first, and then I'll get to the renters in just a second. But if your mortgage is backed by the federal government, there are provisions in the CARE Act that allow you to suspend your mortgage payments for up to 12 months. In addition, you will not be charged any late fees, and your late payments will not be reported to the credit bureaus. Foreclosures and evictions will be suspended for at least 60 days. If your loan is not backed by the federal government, contact your loan servicer, the person or company that you make your loan payments to, and see what options you have available to you. They may be willing to work with you and provide some options that you may not have been aware of. You can also contact your state or local government office to find out what options for mortgage assistance they may have, and it varies from state to state. One of the options that may be presented to you is an option called forbearance, is when you pause payments. But please be careful with forbearance and make sure you understand the terms of the type of forbearance you have, and some of it depends on the type of loan that you have. The scary part about forbearances is that you could potentially, even though your payments are suspended for 6 months or for a year, whatever that time frame is, when that forbearance period runs out, all of your unpaid balance and previous payments that you have suspended could all be due at one time. So if you were 1 or 2 months behind and not able to catch up those payments, Just think how difficult it will be to catch up 6 months or a year's worth of payments all at once. Unless you're expecting some type of windfall at that time, it will be extremely difficult, if not impossible. So please be aware of the terms of any type of forbearance or payment suspension that is offered to you. Make sure you understand what you're getting into. Under the CARES Act, you do have the right to halt forbearance, stop it at any time if you have a federally backed mortgage. If you don't have a federally backed mortgage, again, you will have to work with your mortgage servicer, the company or person that you make your loan payments to, and make arrangements with them. But if it's a federally backed loan, which includes your FHA loans, your Veterans Affairs guaranteed loans, and various other government-backed loans, all of those fall under the CARES Act. It's those that are not backed by the federal government that you may have to do some negotiating with the bank or whoever your loan servicer is to work out options for payment or for halting any forbearance or suspension process that you have started. Another option you may have is to restructure your loan, and there's various ways to do that. You may be able to move the payments that you're currently behind on. You may be able to move them to the end of your mortgage, which obviously would extend the payment payback time for your mortgage. And it could also increase the amount of interest that you would have to pay, and possibly your payments would go up, because restructuring may also cause the loan to be re-amortized, which means your payments could go up because they're extending it and adding the interest. You're still going to owe the interest. It's not going to be forgiven. And that's the same thing with forbearance. You need to understand that forbearance is not a forgiveness of those payments. They're giving you more time to make them. And in the meantime, that loan is still usually accruing interest. The same could apply with a restructure program. You could shift the payments to the back end of the mortgage, but that interest that was accrued will be added to the balance, and the balance will be recalculated. And in order to make the payments work out, you could see your payments go up slightly. So please, if you're exploring any kind of mortgage forbearance or restructure options, please understand the terms of what you're getting into. Okay, so what about people who are renting? Under the CARES Act that was signed into law on March 27th, there is eviction protection. The CARES Act provides 120 days of eviction relief for tenants living in federally backed housing, meaning if your landlord has a rental property that has a mortgage that is backed by the federal government, then they can evict you for at least 120 days, starting on March 27th when the CARES Act was signed into law. After 120 days, they still have to provide you with another 30-day notice before they can begin eviction. Also, during that 120-day period, your landlord is not allowed to charge you late fees or any penalties associated with you paying your rent late. If you can only pay a portion of your rent during this period while you're waiting to go back to work or waiting for federal assistance, pay whatever you can on your rent. That will lessen the burden when things get back to the new normal, whatever that looks like. So do what you can, speak with your landlord, make sure you understand the rules, and try to make whatever arrangements you can. If you can make partial payments, do so. But understand that if you live in federally backed housing, your landlord cannot evict you for 120 days from March 27th. And at the end of that 120 days, they have to provide you with 30 days notice before they can actually begin the eviction process. So keep that in mind. So what if you lose your health insurance during this pandemic? Well, you need to act quickly if you do. because some of your options are time sensitive. You may have 30 to 60 days to apply. You need to gather your documentation, such as proof of your job employment and proof of your loss of insurance. Documents showing that you were employed, that you had insurance, that you lost your job and therefore lost your insurance during this pandemic. That will allow you to apply for insurance under the Affordable Care Act. That's one of the options you have. Be very diligent, since there's been over 22 million people now that have already applied for unemployment. I expect a lot of people will also be applying for health insurance coverage in the very near future if things don't get back to normal. Be diligent, get your paperwork together, and file for your next available insurance option as soon as possible. There's also what is known as the COBRA option. But really, the COBRA option, under these circumstances that we're dealing with today, where you have loss of income, the COBRA option is probably not a good option for most people. And the reason I say that is the COBRA provides you for continued coverage, the same insurance that you had prior to losing your job for a certain period of time. But the problem is the cost of COBRA. You can keep the same insurance, you can keep seeing the same doctors, and this may be necessary for people who were already under a doctor's care and receiving special treatment, or having in the process of having procedures done. They may need to keep that same insurance and make sure they keep the same doctor until they finish that process. But just know that it will be more costly than what you had before, because not only do you have to pay your portion of the insurance premium, but you have to pay your employer's portion of the insurance premium under COBRA as well. So that cost could be extremely high. So if you're not in a situation where you absolutely have to keep the same coverage that you had before, the Affordable Care Act may be a better option for you. You may also have the option for Medicaid coverage. Check with your state, since most Medicaid plans are managed at the state level. Check what your options are for your particular state and apply for Medicaid assistance if necessary. There may be other state options also available for temporary assistance for loss of a job, and income, insurance assistance, medical assistance, or assistance with paying medical bills during the time of this pandemic. So check your state options as well as your federal options. So just to recap, if you're still waiting on that first stimulus check and you don't have direct deposit set up, go to the Department of Treasury website, go to the IRS website, check on the status of your stimulus check. If you still have time to set up direct deposit, that will certainly expedite the process, so you may want to consider doing that. For my small business friends, if you were denied a loan under the first plan because the program ran out of money, know that there's more help on the way. If you were denied the first time or told that there were no more funds available, you may have to reapply. But but Congress has passed a new bill for new funding. It has been signed by the president. More stimulus money is headed your way. Now, not all of that will go to the small business, but they are refunding that program or reestablishing funding in that program. So check again. If you need to reapply and get that process going again, and hopefully you can get the assistance that you need. For mortgage holders, homeowners who are concerned about their mortgage, please be aware of what your options are under the CARE Act. You may have options for suspending payments, for pausing payments, for mortgage restructure, but please be aware of whatever terms are available to you, especially when it comes to forbearance or pause payments, where those payments may all of a sudden be due in a balloon payment, meaning you have to make whatever number of payments you're behind, 3, 6, 12 months worth of payments that you have to make all of a sudden. Is not going to be an easy task to do. So please be aware of what kind of terms and conditions you're signing up for when you look for mortgage assistance. For renters, be aware that you cannot be evicted for at least 180 days from March 27th. That's when you can receive your first eviction notice if you're living in a property that's backed by a federally backed mortgage, and then you still have to receive 30 days notice after that. So the earliest you could be evicted from the time the CARES Act went into effect would be August 24th, if my math is correct, or somewhere around that time frame. So know your rights as a renter and understand where you stand with that. If you need assistance with insurance, understand that it is time sensitive. If you lose your insurance coverage due to this pandemic and losing your hours or losing your job completely, understand that there can be a special enrollment period under the Affordable Care Act, but it is time sensitive. So get your documentation together. If you need to file for insurance replacement from what you had, get that process going as soon as possible and don't miss the deadlines. As I mentioned before, please leave your comments below. I would love to hear from you. I would love to know what you're dealing with, and if there's any kind of advice or assistance that I can provide for you, I will be happy to do that. Or if I need to do a specific video covering topics that you're dealing with, that would be nice to know as well. So leave those comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can be notified and keep up with all the latest information. I will continue to do updates similar to this as long as this coronavirus sticks around, and we'll get back to our regular lessons when things get back to something more closer to normal. So take care of yourself, and until next time, behave well.